Conservative new media viewers and LA Lakers and Jeremy Lin fans around the world, what's up? It's me, PFE, Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert, and we're here to react and analyze two events that took place. That is Jeremy Lin's testimony while he was on his 2014 trip to Taiwan, and then we're going to do the same thing with Jeremy Lin's first press conference for the Los Angeles Lakers that was done to introduce Jeremy to Lakers fans and Lakers media. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start out with the with the Christian testimony that Jeremy did, and just kind of go over what he said and then react to it. There were three things that Jeremy wanted to touch on, or three main highlights that he wanted to outline in his testimony that he gave. The first one was courage. We want to talk about courage. What he discussed in his address to the crowd there and to television and to all the people that watched his testimony online, he said that he's had an issue with pre-game anxiety, getting nervous before a game for the last 6 years. So the last 2 years that he was in college at Harvard, and then all 4 seasons in which he has competed in the NBA. And what he mentioned was that at one point it was so bad, I guess in the 2013-14 season, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he didn't know what he was going to do. So he basically just kind of like called out to God, please help me out with this. Please just give me help. And what he said that God answered him and responded to his need by focusing him on a Bible verse that I can't remember right now, but it was basically saying, don't be afraid, be not afraid, have no fear, this type of thing. And he said that really broke through to him because he was getting the same Bible passage from various people in his life. They were sending it to him. He was finding it on objects around his own home and from I want to say a cup or a watch that his brother left at his apartment, at his place. So it's like, he felt like, yeah, God's really telling me this. This is what I need to do. I need to let go of the fear. And he said that since he's been able to do that, since that time period, now he's much more relaxed. He said now he's not anxious when he's coming off the bench. He's just letting go of his anxiety more and more. Now, just to comment on this, if you follow Jeremy, particularly in his 2 years in Houston, he's discussed this anxiety many times. And not only would it affect him before the game, but he would go over and over and over and over when in his mind when he didn't play well and when the team didn't perform well. You could tell it was just eating him up. And I remember him saying, I think in the 2012-2013 season, he just took everything so hard because he had in his mind the idea that he was going to be the savior of Houston basketball. And that's what he wanted. That's what he felt his role was supposed to be. And so he was just putting way too much pressure on himself. And I mentioned this on Twitter when he discussed this. A similar thing happened to LeBron James. And LeBron has just completed his 11th season. And he didn't really, truly, in my opinion, conquer his pregame anxiety until about 2 years ago. And this is when you've heard reports about LeBron starting to read the book The Hunger Games and other books before games. And here's what's happening, in my opinion. People who are smart, people who are intelligent, both Jeremy and LeBron are both very intelligent guys, and they're nice guys and they think a lot. They're considerate. They want to do well for their team. They put a lot of pressure on themselves. What happens is you can think too much. And so what you need to do when that occurs is you need to distract your mind. You need to have something else to focus on, or you need to have something that will take your mind off of the angst and the worry. For LeBron, that was reading these books. It let him think less about the game. For Jeremy, it sounds like it's thinking about this Bible passage, thinking about God. And it's working. Obviously, it's working for both men. And for Jeremy to be able to come to this place is really, really, really important. Because he clearly, and I'll mention this when we talk about the presser, he clearly thinks a lot about things to the point of sometimes where it's too much. And I personally can relate to that. I think a lot about things, and I know it can be too much sometimes where it becomes an impedance. It actually stops me from doing what I want to do or doing it well. The best way to think about this in a simple analogy is think about a guy shooting a free throw late in the game. If he was shooting the free throw early in the game, he's not thinking at all. But when late in the game, it's like, oh, what if I mess up? What if I miss? In a close game. That's what happens for people when they think a lot. It's always the end of the game free throw for them. And so you need to find a way to step back from that. And to be completely honest, Jeremy was in a tough spot in Houston because there was all kind of stuff going on around the team. If you're a Lakers fan and you don't know Jeremy Lin, there was all kinds of drama going on the team. Way too much drama, particularly towards Jeremy, in my opinion, but just throughout the team in general. But Jeremy had a lot of burden, and he was made the scapegoat, in my opinion, by the local media and by the national media as well. So he had a tremendous amount of weight on his shoulders. So he's learning how to put that away. And again, if somebody as great as LeBron has to learn how to do this, there's no reason why it can't happen to somebody like Jeremy Lin. So I'm really happy that this is happening for him because I think this is critical for his performance as a player. You must be able to win the mental game in order to compete well as a professional athlete. It's a different thing for different people. Some people could care less about whatever. They have no conscience about how they play. They don't care. This is what the meaning of the term ignorance is bliss means. If you don't care, you don't know, it doesn't matter. Just, I shot 20 times and I missed 15 of them. So what? And next game you go out and shoot 20 times again. You don't care. Jeremy's not like that. And he's always had a tremendous burden on him because of who he is and what he represents for a lot of his fans across the world. So a lot of this, he's not making this up. A lot of this exists. But he, as an individual and as a basketball player, has to figure out, how do I separate that? How do I put that away in the dresser drawer when I play? Because if you don't put it away, you're not going to play your best. And he's learning how to do that, and I'm glad that he mentioned that. The second overriding point that Jeremy wanted to make in his testimony was about humility. And one of the things he said is, I was demanding too much from God. I was trying to, quote unquote, use God. And he said he was trying to be God. What that means is, for him, hey God, where's Linsanity? Where's Linsanity 2.0? Why aren't you helping me out here? Why aren't you hooking me up? Because it doesn't always work that way. God has his own plan. And sometimes the plan doesn't mean Linsanity 2.0. Sometimes it means you're going to struggle for a while here. You're going to go through the trials of Job. and then I'll give you something good at the end of it. We're not God. No human is God. We don't know what God's plan is. We don't know what God's path is for us. And so what Jeremy was discussing here is, I needed to let God be God and stop myself from trying to be God. I don't get to run the show here. God's running the show, and I need to follow his lead. So that was really good. And that's, you have to be able to do that. You have to be humble. Because if you're not humble, you won't listen to anybody, even if they're trying to help you, including God. And he mentioned in this part of the discussion that he needed to get back and really start worshiping God more and do what God gave him the ability to do, not just in basketball, but off of the court. And he mentioned the very famous parable of the talents, which, if you're not familiar with the Bible, in a nutshell, a king or a ruler or a master has, I believe, 3 servants, and the master is going to go away for a period of time, and then he's going to return in months or whatever it is. And the master gives each servant, I think, 10 talents, which a talent was a coin. It was a amount of money, I believe, back in the way back in ancient world. And so I believe two of the servants, they go out and they use their ability, and they are smart and wise, and they take the 10 talents and they get more of it. Instead of having 10 talents, now they have 20 or they have 50. So when the master comes back, they can say, "Look, master, we've done something here. We've grown your money for you." But the third servant, instead of using the talent, he hides the talent. He buries the talent like a miser, like somebody hoarding something, so that it can't grow. You're squashing it. And so it just sits there, and when the master comes back, he's got the same number of talents as when the master left, whereas the other 2 have many more talents. And this is a parable off of, obviously, the word talent. God wants us to use our ability, not hide it, not squash it. That's not what we're supposed to do. So if you've got something, if you've got an ability, use it. Because we all have different abilities. And there are, for God's master plan, everybody's ability needs to be used. So if 10 different people have 10 different talents and one of them decides to not use the talent, well, then the other 9 people get messed up because they need the ability of the 10th person. And so Jeremy talked about this. And this came back to the humility aspect. You have to play the role God wants you to play, not necessarily the role you want to play. Hey, I wanted to be an NBA star growing up. You know what? That wasn't in the cards. That wasn't going to happen. So if I sit on my hands for the rest of my life and say, "No, it wasn't fair, I was supposed to be a star," then I'm not doing what God wants me to do. I'm burying my talents. And so what Jeremy discussed with this, I believe, was, hey, I got to come off the bench now. You know what? There's something I can do with that. I can help my team with that. So even if it's not what I wanted, it's going to help the team. It's going to help the team being the master here. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do for the master and for God. I'm going to use my talents and not bury them. Finally, the third thing that he wanted to talk about was talking about true success. And true success as compared with worldly success. Most people, when they think about true success, that means to them, you got a lot of money. You've got a house or houses. You've got a fancy car. Whatever. You've got a trophy wife or a trophy husband. You're your house full of luxuries. And he started off this part talking about how he had a critical turnover in Game 4 of the 2014 playoff series against the Portland Trailblazers. And he was, again, I think kind of feeling a little bit down on himself or a little sorry for himself. And, hey, God, what's up? How come you're doing this to me? I'm not supposed to make turnover. I'm supposed to be the hero. And now I'm speaking for him here, but this is the type of thinking that we're discussing here. And again, it's not about that. It's not about that. And what Jeremy said that he learned from this is that you can't worship false idols. You can't serve two masters at once. If you're worshiping money and the world, you're not worshiping God. You're not living for God. So you have to make a choice, and we all have to make a choice. Which idol are you going to worship? Or who or what are you going to worship? Are you going to worship the golden idol, or are you going to worship God? And this is what he was talking about. And obviously for Jeremy, true success is to worship God, not to worship the idols, or you're going to be mad if you're not the hero at the end of the playoff series, etc. Finally, Jeremy mentioned that he gave a shout out to the people that will be watching the testimony online, which is many, many people. Jeremy understands his global icon status. He knows people like myself and people that are watching this video and all of his fans and people in Jeremy Lin Garden and everybody are watching him. And we're going to follow him. We're going to watch the thing. I'm not in Taiwan. I don't get the Taiwan TV station, but I can watch his thing because it's going to be put up. So it's nice to Jeremy to kind of acknowledge that, and it kind of makes everybody that watches it that way feel a little bit better. And look, just wrapping up here on his testimony, this was really good. It was mostly an audience of teenagers and people that are in an impressionable age, and they need to hear this. The truth is, we all need to hear it. And I said on Twitter at the time, like, wow, man, this makes me feel good. It's like restores my faith in humanity. People need good, righteous examples. And I don't care if you're religious or not. We all need something to believe in. Again, taking religion out of it, we need to have hope. We need to have examples. And seeing Jeremy Lin be honest with an impressionable audience and for his fans around the world is really heartening. And if you're out in the world, if you're an adult and you're out in the world and you're working, and a lot of workplaces are very cynical, selfish places. We have coworkers doing this, and maybe we fall down and stumble a little bit in what we should be doing. And it's refreshing to find somebody who is trying to do good things. Jeremy's not perfect, but he's not supposed to be. But he's trying. He's living that life. That's one of the things that's great about Jeremy is you can believe that he lives the life that he says he lives. There are many athletes and many famous people, not just athletes, like, executives and chief executives and etc., who say one thing and do another. Now, again, I'm not saying that Jeremy's batting 100 out of 100 and doing everything he says, but he's trying to do it, which is much better than people who are not trying or who blatantly go and say one thing and then do another thing once nobody's looking at them. So really appreciated Jeremy's doing this. This is clearly an important thing to him. This is part of who he is as a human being. And he and his team, I think they're doing something much bigger than basketball. And they're using the basketball as a platform for him to be able to give this message to people around the world. And I really appreciate it. And I'm sure And I know a whole bunch of other people appreciate it as well. Okay, let's move on to the LA Lakers press conference that Jeremy did. And what I'm going to do here is I will read what Jeremy said, kind of response by response, and then react to it. So this is going to probably take a little bit of time, but that's what we're going to do here. First of all, the press conference began with Mitch Kupchak talking. Mitch Kupchak, the general manager of the Lakers, longtime general manager, very successful, and very well respected around the league. One of the most respected general managers probably in all of the NBA. Now, the first thing that Mitch said, I think after he kind of teased Jeremy because Jeremy was wearing like a tuxedo to the press conference, I mean, he was just giving a hard time, but it was all in jest, of course, was that he mentioned that the Lakers have tried to get Jeremy before and that this was the third time that they've tried to get him. And I've talked about this before. And I mentioned this on Twitter, and I'll say it again here. There was a reporter who said that the Lakers only got Jeremy for his contract. That's not accurate, I don't think. And the reason why it's not accurate is because they've tried to get him before. They have genuine interest in Jeremy as a player, not just as a contract. And this is what Mitch Kupchak was speaking to when he said this remark. He said the third time was the charm. They tried to get him when he first came into the league. He was undrafted. He was playing in the summer league to basically earn a spot in the NBA. They missed out on him then. Houston waived him the first time around. They missed out on him then. Now they finally got him. And that was about it for what Mitch was saying that I'm going to react to. Okay, Jeremy started out with his own statement, whereas most of the press conference was him reacting to questions that were given to him by reporters. There were many reporters at the press conference. And Jeremy's in his own statement, he began by saying, "I'm really excited to be a part of this organization." That speaks for itself. The Lakers are, without question, the biggest brand in the NBA. They are the biggest brand in the world in terms of basketball. Bigger than the Celtics, bigger than anybody, bigger than the Bulls, bigger than anyone. They have, I don't even know the number of fans that they have around the world. It's clearly the biggest. They have numerous fans everywhere. Asia, Europe, South America, everywhere. Just, it's you can't escape it. Jeremy, this is a perfect opportunity for him in a lot of ways. It's a city and an organization that has a fan base that's going to be receptive to him, in my opinion, and it's a winning, classy organization. Secondly, Jeremy said, "I'm seeing it as a new start. Good to be back in California." Obviously, Jeremy Lin is from California, even though he's from Northern California, also known as NoCal, and now he's in Southern California, SoCal. He's used to SoCal, and having someone and myself that's lived in California for a good amount of time, California is California, Northern California or Southern California. There's still a particular vibe to California, and Jeremy is definitely got the California mentality, and that he's comfortable there. And that matters quite a bit. Obviously, getting a new start, if you've followed Jeremy during his 2 years in Houston, and honestly going back to New York, he's had a lot of up and downs. He's played well, but obviously in New York. He's played well in Houston, but there's been issues there. Some of them were his own issues, like the anxiety, like the just learning to get accustomed to the league once the league is ready for you and they've scouted you out. There have been issues with teammates, Carmelo Anthony, James Harden, and maybe some hard feelings because of the attention that Jeremy generates, even if he doesn't seek it. So there's been a lot of difficulties, and we've spoken before about the reputation that the Houston Rockets organization has at this time, where maybe they're not the most loyal organization, or perhaps not the most comfortable organization to play for because you could get dealt at any time based upon the way that GM Daryl Morey goes about his job. So this is a new start for Jeremy, and he's clearly excited about it, as well he should be. Okay, now we're going to go to answers from questions that came to reporters, and this is the large bulk of what the press conference was. Okay, first thing, Jeremy said, "This past year has been an up and down year for me. I've learned and grown as a Christian and as a basketball player in the last 2 years." Everything he said in his testimony. I'm glad that he mentioned the Christian aspect of it. Again, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. I've been religious and been a-religious, both. What I'm happy for Jeremy is he's being who he is. It's important to Jeremy that he's Christian, and he wants to share that as part of his faith. And so I'm glad that he mentioned it because it's important to him. And it's good for him to be able to feel comfortable and bring it up. The last 2 years have been very difficult, no question about it. Next, Jeremy said, I'm a more complete player than when I began in Houston. He is clearly a more complete player. This is what people who don't follow Jeremy might not know. And I've seen a number of these people on Lakers ground, which I think is a great forum for the Lakers, and around the internet. They'll say because Jeremy's stats are down, he's just not that good. Jeremy's improving all the time. He improves during the season. He improves in the off season, and this is only really his second off season to truly grow as a player. The reason why I say that is he's played 4 years in the NBA. The first year he played for the Golden State Warriors, he didn't play much. When you don't play much and you're not going against competition, you don't know what you need to improve. When you're practicing, you might be the greatest jump shooter that ever lived, but in the game comes, you're not that good. Well, you don't know that unless you play against the top competition. If you're just coming in playing scrub minutes at the end of games, you don't know anything. You don't know what you need to do. So that was year one. Year two, he hurt his knee. He hurt his knee in New York. So he had to have surgery and he had to rehab the whole summer. You can't work on anything if all you're doing is rehabbing because your body won't let you do it. Year three, last year, Jeremy and his team made the Reloaded video, so we know what Jeremy was working on. But what he worked on was his three-point shooting. He worked on his dribbling with his left hand, going left. Those were the two main things. He also worked on his body. He worked on finishing better, etc. This summer, he's working on new things, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. So Jeremy is, a lot of guys, when they're 25 years old, which is what Jeremy is, he's going to be 26 soon here in the end of August, they're already pretty much the player they're going to be. They're pretty much set in what they're going to be. But Jeremy's different than that because he's changing positions a little bit from college, and he went from Ivy League level of competition at Harvard to NBA level of competition. And from not being paid attention to really being paid attention to on scouting reports. So his learning curve is still relatively steep. And I mean that in a good way for him. He's still got a long way to go. And as he gets more and more up on the curve, it's going to get easier and easier for him. Now, I'm not saying he's going to transform into Michael Jordan because he isn't. But there's still a lot of things for him to learn. And again, you're taking somebody who went to Harvard, right? When you go to a place like Harvard, you got to work like crazy on your academics. And I went to an Ivy League university, to Cornell. I was fortunate enough to do that. I don't know how they let me in, but I got in. And I can tell you, one of the hardest things about being in a place like that is the amount of work you have to do. It might not even be that hard, but it's grinding grunt work. If you're at a place like that and you want to stay in school and get a decent grade point average, you don't have time to work on your game all the time. You're just not going to have as much time as somebody would that maybe is going to like another school. I'll just be nice about it and say it like that. So Jeremy didn't major in basketball in college. He majored in economics, I believe, or maybe double majored. So he's still catching up with the guys that might have went to a school that's not as rigorous academically. So he kind of missed out on that period of time, so to speak, and he wasn't playing the highest level of competition. That takes time. Secondly, Jeremy played shooting guard in college. Shooting guard is much different than point guard in most offensive systems. Now, Jeremy played point guard in high school at Palo Alto, but he hadn't played it in a while. And so the mentality needed for a point guard in the NBA is much different than a shooting guard in the Ivy League, a lot different. So he's still adjusting to that. And Jeremy still is only 2 years removed from Linsanity. He came out of the blue. Nobody expected it. He didn't expect it. I'm not saying he didn't know he was capable of it, but nobody can expect that, given Jeremy's background. You just can't. It doesn't mean it's not great when it happens, but nobody thought it was actually going to happen. So he's still just kind of settling in. He's finding his place in the NBA. Now, I don't mean that in a way like the Houston would say, like he's finally found his role off the bench. No, I don't mean it like that. I just mean, okay, now you've been scouted. You've gone through Linsanity. You've gone through this. You've gone through that. Now let's see over the long term just kind of what works for you game in and game out, 9 in and 9 out. And that's important. Every player has to go through this. I don't care who it is. Andrew Wiggins, number 1 pick in the 2014 draft. He's going to go through it too. Doesn't matter how talented you are. Everybody goes through that. Everybody. He was asked about, and let me just finish. So he is a more complete player. He's clearly better with his left hand, dribbling and driving. He's clearly better at three-point shooting. He's clearly better at his playing off of the ball, which means when you don't have the ball in your hands and you're not the one setting up a play. He's worked on all of these things. His defense is better. He is improving, and I expect him to be able to continue to improve, not the least of which is because of the mental aspect of the game that we talked about during the testimony. If your mind is holding you back, you will not perform your best. The reason why Jeremy was so good during Linsanity 1.0 in New York was because he wasn't thinking about it. He played free. Now, of course, people didn't scout him or whatever to that point in time, and that does make a difference, but he just played. And that was the confidence that Mike D'Antoni, the coach of the Knicks at the time, gave him. Now, you can't rely on that because Mike's not your coach anymore. Some coaches will be different. You need to be able to play in different systems and in different styles. But a big part of why Jeremy did so well was because he wasn't thinking about it. Now, when Carmelo came back to the Knicks after he was out hurt, and when James Harden came to the Rockets and other things happened with the Rockets, he had to think a lot more. That's where all the pressure and all this stuff came in. So not only do I think Jeremy will improve physically, I think he's improving mentally. And that can have a huge effect on how you perform on the court. Now, he was asked about starting, and his answer was, that's a question for the coach. That's the right answer. That's the answer that you should give if you're a good teammate. It's up to Byron Scott, who will be the coach, to make that decision. If Byron Scott wants to start Steve Nash ahead of you, then okay, you just got to deal with it. So that's fair. And given someone of Steve Nash's reputation and accomplishments, it's understandable if Steve Nash starts ahead of Jeremy. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't think Steve Nash will ever be fully healthy again because of the nerve damage that he suffered in one of his legs, I believe it was. But if Steve's back and Byron Scott wants to go to him, then that's what's going to happen. And Jeremy won't have any problem with that. I mean, he's friends with Steve. He has a lot of respect for Steve. That's not an issue. And let's be honest here, Steve's not going to play a lot longer. So it's not a problem. Jeremy then said, I've learned it's not about who starts, it's about who finishes the game and how you play when you're on the court. It's another step in his maturity. Somebody like Manu Ginobili, of course, of the Spurs, has a pretty good chance to get into the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Most of his career, or a substantial amount of his career, he's played off the bench. Not because he's not good enough to start, but because that's what the team needed. And Jeremy understands it is about who finishes the game. Manu is going to finish most games for the Spurs. So it doesn't matter if he starts. It's about who. If he's on the court at the end of the game, then the coaches are giving you respect. And that's a good way to approach it. And the idea of how do you play when you're on the court? That's right. You're not the coach. They make the call. Don't worry about that. But when you're called on, you go out and do well. Just go out and play your game when it's your time. And again, Jeremy seems to be much more at peace with this than he had before. He's kind of letting down his expectations of himself and everybody else's expectations of him. And that's good. That's going to free up his mind. Then he said, I believe I can start for an NBA team and help a team win. Good. Jeremy still has full confidence. He's standing up for himself, but he's saying, I respect the coach. The coach is going to make the decision. But just to be clear, if everybody thinks I'm a bench player now after my time in Houston, I believe I could start. Like Jeremy Lin is the starting point guard in the NBA. There's no question about that in my mind. And he feels that way, and that's good to hear. Next, he was asked about the famous Knicks versus Lakers game in 2012, in which he scored 38 points. And before that game was the whole Kobe saying, who is he? Or who's that? Whatever, about Jeremy. And he said, Jeremy did, I got asked 500 questions in Asia about that game, during his last trip to China and to Taiwan. Of course, first of all, that's one of Jeremy's best games of his career. Second of all, it involved Kobe Bryant, who's massive in Asia as a figure. Third of all, it involved the Lakers, who, as we've said, are the most popular team around the world, and I'm sure they're extremely popular in China, in China and throughout Asia. I know they are. So, yeah, people want to bring that up, especially when you're going to go play for the Lakers. Hey, you remember that game? Of course. So that's a normal thing. Then Jeremy was asked about the trade to the Lakers, and he said, I had no idea that the trade was coming. I was stunned when my agent called me with the news. This is really good. What this shows is different people have said, hey, what's up with Roger Montgomery, and who's Jeremy's agent, or one of the two. I don't remember the other man's name right now, and I apologize for that. These agents are doing their job. They're the ones that helped make sure Jeremy got that big contract from Houston. So regardless of everything that went on in Houston, Jeremy still made $25 million, or he's going to through this season. It's hard to be upset about that. I mean, the agents are doing their job. And Jeremy didn't even know this Lakers thing was coming. The agents got it done, along with Mitch Kupchak. I'm sure that, I don't know who called whom. I wouldn't be surprised if Mitch knew now's a good time to try to get Jeremy. And he might have called the agents, but the agents had to get the deal done. They had to do their diligence and get it done, and you give them respect. They got it done. That's why you have an agent. And those agents are looking pretty good right now. So respect to them. And, Jeremy's on the Lakers now. That's it. He was asked about playing with Kobe Bryant. Jeremy said, it will be great to play with Kobe. I want to learn a lot from him, and I'm excited to learn from him. Kobe obviously he's a legend. He's incredibly skilled. He has a very high level of skill in his game. He's lost a little bit of skill particularly because he has an arthritic, I want to say it's an arthritic right middle finger. This has hurt his skill as a ball handler and as a shooter, in my opinion. Still, Kobe has a supreme level of skill. And even if his finger can't do what it used to do, he understands everything about how to become skilled and how to keep your skill and how to train. He understands workouts. Nobody has a better work ethic than Kobe Bryant in the NBA. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. He is notorious for late night workouts, long hours and hours and hours workouts, etc. Kobe is an incredibly driven player. And he's an incredibly driven person. That's gotten him into trouble sometimes, but it's also why he's as good as what he is. Almost anybody that's good in any field or the top of their field is a little bit obsessive about what they do. Jerry Rice, the great wide receiver for the American football team, the San Francisco 49ers, the greatest receiver ever in almost everybody's mind, was totally obsessive about working out and what he did. And that's how he got as good as he got. So Jeremy can learn from Kobe for sure. Jeremy himself is obsessive about his working out. He has an outstanding work ethic, and everybody knows that. And his work ethic is legendary, for sure. Same with Steve Nash. These guys are going to get along well. I know Kobe is going to respect Jeremy because of how hard Jeremy works. Again, a guy that's not talented could work 5 times harder than this guy that's talented, and the guy that's talented is still going to do better. So working hard doesn't give you skills you don't have, or it doesn't give you talent you don't have. But even the most talented guys will respect the guy that works hard because they know he's trying as hard as he possibly can. So Jeremy, Kobe, and Steve are going to get along well because they all work like that. And that's a really good thing, and that's the way to get Kobe's respect is to work hard. Okay, then Jeremy said, I want to learn how Kobe approaches the season, and I want to learn how Kobe approaches his workouts. Great. Again, you're getting the opportunity here to learn from a Hall of Famer, or 2 Hall of Famers, actually. Or, is Byron Scott in the Hall of Fame? I don't know if he is or not. But 2 Hall of Fame current active players, Steve Nash and Kobe. Kobe's workouts are legendary. Jeremy certainly can learn from that and learn how to approach the season. What I said earlier, you have to know the ups and downs of the season. There are dips and lulls and peaks and everything. You have to know how to work with that. If you're a starter or you're playing significant minutes, how do you work with the rhythm of a season? And Jeremy can talk with Kobe about that and learn a lot. And that's fantastic. Jeremy then said that he's exchanged text messages with Kobe, which is great. Kobe welcomed him to the team. And Jeremy said, Kobe told me we have a lot of work to do, and I think that is 100% accurate. Excellent. Jeremy is on board. Kobe has been texting people on the team and talking to them and telling them, go to work, get working, get to the gym, start working, because Kobe wants to have a good year. He wants to come back from his injuries, surprise everybody, make the playoffs, etc. So for the team to do that, everybody's got to work hard. Jeremy's on board with that, and he's saying it's 100% accurate. We need to work. That's going to go over really, really well when Kobe Bryant hears that. He then said, if we approach it like we have a lot of work to do, then I think we'll be okay. In other words, okay, maybe we're not the most talented team, the 2014-2015 Los Angeles Lakers. People are saying we're probably not going to make the playoffs. The West is really difficult. But as long as we come in here and go to work and put the work in, then everything else will take care of itself. Again, this is the way Kobe approaches things. This is the way Nash approaches things. And it's the way Jeremy Lin approaches things. As I said, you can't graduate from Harvard if you don't work hard. It's as simple as that. I know friends and athletes that went to Cornell who didn't finish. They didn't get the chance to finish. Let's just put it that way. They didn't put in the work. So I don't care who you are. You got to work to be able to get through one of those schools. And Jeremy knows all about that. And he also knows all about working hard so he can stay in the NBA. Because if he didn't work hard, he wouldn't be in the NBA right now. Then Jeremy was asked about his jersey number. Because they showed him with Mitch Kupchak holding the number 17 jersey and all of this. And so, yes, he's going back to the 17 number, which is the number he wore in New York when Linsanity occurred. And he said, I thought it was a good time to go back to it, to go back to number 17. That's great. He wore number 7 in Houston, but number 7 on the Lakers is worn by Xavier Henry, who was with the team last year and will be with the team again this year. So Jeremy's showing respect to his teammate. And look, 17 was a good number for him in New York, so why not go back? Then he was asked about Jerseygate, which if you're a Lakers fan and don't know about this, it is the incident where the Rockets put up the billboard of Carmelo Anthony wearing the number 7 jersey in a Rockets uniform. Of course, Jeremy Lin was still on the team at that time, and he wears number 7 for the Rockets. So this is Jerseygate. Jeremy said that his Twitter responses summed up his thoughts, which he took the high road, but he said, yeah, I feel a little bit dissed. Basically, that's essentially what he alluded to, if he didn't say. He then said also, I think they could have kept it internal. What that means is if you wanted to present Carmelo Anthony with a marketing or recruitment package that had a jersey of Carmelo in number 7, then that would have been cool. But that's not what you did. That's similar to what they did for Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was on a billboard or two, but you couldn't see what jersey number he was wearing. Now, they gave Dwight Howard a recruitment package, apparently, the Rockets did, that had him clearly wearing the number 12, which was the number that was worn by Patrick Beverley. But that was internal. The public didn't see a massive billboard of Dwight Howard in a number 12 jersey. They did see a massive billboard of Carmelo Anthony in a number 7 jersey. So, yeah, they could have handled that better, in my opinion, and that's obviously how Jeremy felt. Finally, on that, he said he was not outraged by Jerseygate. So he wasn't like, some people were trying to say, I can't believe it. He didn't say he was outraged. He just said he wasn't thrilled about it. And it might have been nice if they had talked to him about it, which apparently did not happen before the billboard went up. Okay, and then he said he wanted to stay a starter after New York. In other words, he didn't go to Houston looking to come off the bench. He wants to be a starter. He wanted to be a starter his second year in Houston. He wants to be a starter now. Again, he's still confident, but he respects the decisions made by the coach, by the organization. And then he said, I learned in the last year that I just have to play my style, whether I'm a starter or not. And hopefully I'll be on the court when it counts. So that goes back to what he said earlier, which is, look, I got to play my game. I got to play the way I need to play, and rather than trying to play a way, play differently because I'm only getting 10 minutes. I got to play my style no matter what, because that's who he is. You can't be what you're not. And hopefully he'll be on the court late in the game, which, to be fair to Houston, he often was on the court late in the game, even if he wasn't getting a starter. Of course, he was not on the court when Damian Lillard hit the three-point shot to beat Houston in the playoff series. But to be fair to Houston, he was on the court a lot late in games. So let's give him credit where credit is due. Then Jeremy said that Kobe is an idol in Asia, and he clearly is. Kobe is probably the most popular NBA player in Asia. Or if he's not, he's without doubt in the top 3. Kobe's marketing team and Nike, who Kobe is with, have spent a long time marketing Kobe in Asia, and it has worked. And if you're not familiar, I know with China, if you're not familiar with China and the Chinese culture, my understanding is they really highly value winning. Well, Kobe's won 5 titles. It's not then a real surprise that he's looked upon the way that he is. So that's true. Kobe's popular in the U.S., but he's polarizing in the U.S. There's a lot of people that don't like him. In Asia, he's really, really, really liked. So what Jeremy's saying is dead on. Then Jeremy said that in Asia, the day after the trade from him to the Lakers, the whole crowd went from wearing red jerseys to yellow Lakers jerseys. And then what he added on that was he noticed that people in Asia, they already had Lakers gear. In other words, they didn't all go out and go buy Lakers gear that night. They already had it. So once he was traded to the Lakers, it was easy for the fans gathering to see him to go right to their Lakers gear because it was already in their closet. He then said he's been in the spotlight. He's been in a big spotlight like New York, and he's been in a lesser small spotlight like Houston, a smaller spotlight. So he can do it either way. He can do star of the show, or he can do a secondary city like Houston, which is a large city, actually. It's the 4th largest city in the United States, much larger than places like Indianapolis or Minneapolis where teams are, but nothing that's as big as New York or L.A. So he's ready for this. He's done this before. He knows how to do it. Then he said, now more than ever, I've learned to play for God and ignore things on the outside. Great. Again, talking about his faith, which is important to him, and alluding to how he's grown mentally. He doesn't take things as hard as he used to. He's not having as much pregame anxiety. Great. Good to hear. Then Jeremy said, I thought if I got to play with Steve Nash or Jason Kidd, I would be extremely excited. Now, there was a chance that Jeremy was going to be able to play with Jason Kidd with the Knicks, I believe. So that's why he's bringing up Jason Kidd. So the point here is he would love to learn from one of these great, experienced point guards. This also goes to the rumor going around that Gary Payton might be brought in as an assistant coach for Byron Scott, which I think is a fantastic idea. Gary Payton and Jeremy know each other because they worked out some together before Jeremy was entering the draft in 2010, I believe. I know some people think, Gary said that Jeremy won't be a superstar, and he said this. No, look, first of all, Gary Payton's a trash talker. He just talks about everybody. I mean, it's just who he is as an individual. Gary Payton is a master. He knows everything about being a point guard. Look, Gary Payton helped mentor Jason Kidd. Gary Payton can seriously help Jeremy Lin. And I really hope that the Lakers get him, because that would be a large asset. If you have Gary Payton and Steve Nash to learn from, and you're a point guard, I mean, you can't ask for anything more than that. And the truth is also, Gary's game, the way that Gary played on offense, was a lot like Jeremy. He wasn't super athletic. He wasn't. He wasn't unathletic, but he wasn't Steve Francis dunking over 10 people. So Gary can relate to how Jeremy plays, and that helps tremendously, the same way that Steve Nash can. I really, truly hope they bring him in. Another thing with Gary was one of the mentally toughest players I've ever seen. Gary learned himself from John Stockton, who obviously is one of the best point guards in history. So that would just be tremendous if Gary wants to come in and join the team, because he knows Jeremy, he can help Jeremy. And honestly, I think if the move is done, I think if they do bring him in, it's being done with a large consideration that is being done to help Jeremy. I mean, Gary can teach and help anybody, but that would be my own opinion of that move would be being done to help Jeremy Lin succeed, which is fantastic. That shows that the Lakers are truly invested in Jeremy. Okay, then Jeremy went on to say, I look forward to learning quite a few things from Steve Nash. Great. Of course, as I said on Twitter, if I had to pick one person, if I was only able to pick one person out of whatever, there's three people that come to my mind immediately. If I had to pick one person to say was the greatest shooter in the history of the league, I would pick Steve Nash over Dirk Nowitzki and over Larry Bird. Nash is just, he's incredible, particularly as a shooter, but as everything else. As a floor general, as the man running the offense, obviously as a two-time MVP. He has an incredible work ethic. And a lot of people don't know with Steve Nash is he's had a back issue for maybe his whole career, certainly the later part of his career. I mean, he has to do extra double work just to be able to play. But he does it. And a lot of people don't know it unless you see him on the sidelines there where he's laying and stretching stuff. But he doesn't talk about it. He just does the work. So this is obviously going to be a really good situation. And the Lakers just came out and said they are not going to use the stretch provision on Steve Nash. What that means is they're keeping Steve Nash this year. They're not going to get rid of him. They're going to keep him. Again, I think the Lakers would do that anyway because they're a classy organization and they respect Steve Nash. But also a little part of it is they want Steve Nash to work with Jeremy Lin and to work with Jordan Clarkson, the other young point guard they just drafted. Great. Excellent idea. Jeremy then added, Steve Nash is at the top of the list of players who got the most out of their ability. Yes, he is. Nash has said of himself that he is the Canadian Jeremy Lin. And what he meant by that is, I had to work to get a spot in the NBA, in college. I am a product of hard work rather than incredible natural talent. Now, don't get it twisted. Both Jeremy Lin and Steve Nash are outstanding athletes. They would make the normal individual look like they're not athletes at all. But in comparatively, these are not the most athletic guys. Again, this isn't Allen Iverson doing a tip dunk over, I don't know, somebody 6'7". These guys don't have that athletic ability, but they work and they understand the game and they have other abilities and they have a drive to be the best. And so Jeremy's giving respect to Steve, which he should. Steve Nash, it's unfortunate that Steve Nash got hurt when he came to the Lakers because he still had something left. He still had more he could have done had he not gotten hurt. But it happens. But still, Jeremy understands how good Steve is and was. And he wants to learn from it, and that's good. Nash's footwork and use of angles is amazing, is what Jeremy said. Yes, it is. If you're a master at playing basketball, you know everything. It's not just about jumping through guys or jumping around guys. It's about how do you get an advantage in any way possible. Part of the way you get an advantage is by knowing where the angles are, When you're driving to the basket, what's the right angle to take? What's the right angle to take when Steve Nash dribbles underneath the basket, comes out, and is going to pass it to somebody? Where does he need to be? Well, he's a master at that. That's why he's Steve Nash. And Steve Nash's footwork is exceptional. Footwork doesn't just apply to posting up. Usually when you hear people talk about footwork in basketball, they talk about guys that are playing the post on offense, playing near to the basket, with the back to the basket, and you've got to move your feet to get your shot. Footwork also applies to perimeter players. How do you set your feet? How do you get to where you want to go? How do you use your body, use your feet on your first step to make a move on somebody and to get beyond them? These are all really important things. And obviously, Jeremy has a lot of respect for Steve Nash on all of those things, as well he should. Then Jeremy said, "My approach should never change. I'm in attack mode all the time. That's how I play." Yeah, that is how he plays. That's what Jeremy Lin does best. That's what separates Jeremy Lin from everybody else. Nobody, maybe with very few exceptions, nobody is better at a guard position at getting to the basket than Jeremy is. Very few players in the NBA are faster than Jeremy Lin is in terms of just flat-out sprint speed. Very, very few. So he knows what makes him special, and that's important. I said you have to know what you are. That doesn't mean you don't work to become better on other things, but you have to know where your bread and butter is, what you're best at, and he knows that. He then said, "I would love to play on the court with Steve Nash at the same time," which is what he did a lot of times with Patrick Beverley, meaning they were both on the court at once. Patrick playing point guard usually, and Jeremy playing shooting guard. Jeremy can play shooting guard. Obviously, he played it in college. And Jeremy's big enough to play shooting guard. Now, it does appear like he's lost some weight this offseason, and he's not as tall as some shooting guards. There are shooting guards in the league that are 6'8", but like Andrew Wiggins is. But he's physically strong enough. He's very strong, even with the reduced weight. And he's played the position. I mean, Jeremy is, in some ways, he's an undersized shooting guard. Now, he can play point guard. I'm not saying he's not a point guard or doesn't have those skills. He does, but shooting guards attack. They shoot. They score. That's Jeremy absolutely has that mentality and that ability. So I would not be surprised to see that happen for the Lakers. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Nash at point guard, Lin at shooting guard, and Kobe at small forward. That could be a pretty deadly combination. So I think we will see that at times this year. Then Jeremy was asked about James Harden saying the comment about Dwight and I are the centerpieces, the cornerstones of the team, and everybody else is a role player. Jeremy responded, "Harden words don't affect me at all. I agree with what he said, and I know James as a person." Meaning, look, James didn't mean it that way. It's being taken that way. In fact, Jeremy then added, James did not mean his remarks in a condescending way. Jeremy here is taking the high road. He's being classy. And look, I don't know. I can't speak for Jeremy. If Jeremy absolutely believes that, and he does know James better than I know James, well, maybe that's how he feels. Now, a lot of people think that he was saying it just to be nice and be classy. It doesn't matter. That's the correct answer. That's the correct, politically correct answer. There's no reason to get into an argument or whatever with James Harden, just like Chandler Parsons did recently after the same remarks were relayed to him. It doesn't matter now. So if it doesn't matter, take the high road. Because, again, every player in the NBA, including Jeremy, is being constantly evaluated by executives and management around the league. Executives are going to like you a lot better if you don't throw your teammates underneath the bus, even if you deserve to do it. They don't want that. They want a guy who's going to avoid stuff like that. And Jeremy comes through once again, which he's always come through with this. So that is good to see. Jeremy then said, I'm not trying to recreate Linsanity. I just want to be myself more than ever. This is great. This is great. And no, this is not a retreat. This is not, I can't do Linsanity anymore. No. It's Linsanity's in the past. Linsanity 1.0. I am in the present. I'm not trying to reach back to my best memories. It's like somebody that's an adult that wants to relive college or the middle life crisis. Go get a sports card. Jeremy's saying, I'm here right now. I want to play now. Forget about Linsanity 1.0. Let's just play now. That's good. That's a good thing. It's not him accepting Kevin McHale saying, oh, Jeremy's found his place, basically as a role player. No. He's just saying, I'm living in the present. I'm not trying to go back and recapture my glory. I want to get glory right now. So that's good. Okay. Then he then said, my brand of basketball is attacking, playmaking on the go. That's exactly what it is. That's what he does best. And that's the baseline of what he does. He needs to do more, but that's what he does, and that's what he's best at. He then said, my style is 0 to 100, but I'm trying to work so that I can slow it down also. I still want to attack, but I want to attack under control. Okay, one of the things Jeremy's working on this summer is he's working at playing at different speeds. What that means, for those not familiar with basketball terminology, Jeremy is a player who plays best fast. When he's playing quick, he wants to zip all over the court, full speed. Playing at a different speed means you've got to be able to play slow also. You have to be able to play in those different styles. Like one of the reasons why the Rockets style doesn't necessarily work in the playoffs, but it works in the regular season, is because they play quick. Well, in the regular season, you can do that. In the playoffs, everything slows down. The other teams work very hard on the transition defense. You're not going to be able to play like that. So this is a great remark. It shows that he is self-aware of his limits and what he needs to work on. We've talked about this over and over again, and critics have talked about this regarding Jeremy over and over again. The best players can play fast and they can play slow. For example, somebody like Chris Paul. Chris Paul can play on the fast break, but he can play slow, deliberate, half-court offense as well. This is great. And this is one of the things Jeremy is working on this summer, and I expect to see improvement on it when Jeremy takes the court for the 2014-15 season. I expect that Jeremy will be better at playing in a half-court offense, and that's going to help his career. Again, you don't come into the NBA knowing everything. You must continually work on your game. LeBron James in the last 2 years has substantially improved his shooting ability. He didn't come in like that, as talented and good as he is. You have to work on it. Again, so if you hear anybody say, oh, Jeremy's a finished product and this is all he's going to be, no, he's not. No, he's still early on. He's still early on in his development. He's going to continue to develop. I've said it before. I expect Jeremy to continue to improve at minimum for another 2 to 3 years. And I mean substantially improve. I expect that. And with the work that he puts in, as long as he's healthy, I think that's a very reasonable expectation. The best players, Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, they add something to their game every offseason. So they come back the next year and they've added something. LeBron has added post-ups. Kobe has added post-ups. Jordan has added a fadeaway, even better than what it used to be. This is how you become the best and how you strive to be the best. So this is very good to hear. Jeremy's working on this right now, and that's good. Okay? Next, Jeremy said, I have been working this summer on my floater. If you're not familiar with the term, a floater is when you drive to the basket like you're going to do a layup, but you don't get all the way to the basket, so you can't actually do a layup. You push or float the ball towards the basket. So it's kind of like a running layup, so to speak. Floaters can include teardrop, which is the very, very high arcing shot, it's just a higher arcing floater. And floaters can also be called runners. This is critical for Jeremy. And this, again, it shows that he's targeting exactly what he needs to target. He knows what he needs to work on. Work on playing at different speeds, playing slow, and work on floaters and runners, as well as continue to work on your three-point shooting, which I'm sure he's doing. The reason why floaters are important for a guard is because you're shorter than everybody else. And when you drive to the basket, guys are going to stop you. You might get past your man, but two guys might come in and seal off the basket. What do you do when that happens? You shoot a floater. So you don't have to shoot a jump shot. But if you're 6 feet away from the basket, you don't have time to gather to shoot a jump shot. Shoot a floater. You can't get... You've driven to the basket. You're in motion. You have momentum. You can't stop and shoot a jump shot, but you can't get all the way to the rim to shoot a layup. That's when you shoot a floater. And really good guards develop very good floaters because just for that situation, it's another offensive weapon. I'm very much looking forward to this because I can tell you many times in the last couple of years, Jeremy was in a position where he would have been best served by shooting a floater, but he wasn't comfortable with shooting it, so he didn't shoot it. In other words, these are times when he might stop dribbling, get hung up, do the pivot move, and all of that. Well, in the future, you'll see him shoot more floaters in those situations, and that will be a better, higher percentage outcome for him. So this is great news to hear. He then said, the floater is important so that I can play with a change of pace and not have to force the issue. That's right. This goes back to playing slower. Also, change of pace can occur within the move itself. So if you are an offensive player and you are on the perimeter and you are making a move towards the basket to beat your defender, one of the things that is used is called a change of pace dribble. What this means is you either start dribbling slowly and then increase it very quickly, or you start dribbling quickly and then slow down very suddenly. That fakes out your defender. So if you move forward and you go real quick at first and then you slow down, the guy's going to keep moving because he thinks you're going to continue to go quick. So then you have space between you and your defender. And what can you do then? You can shoot a floater. Same way that if you start slow and end up fast. Because if you start slow and you leave your man in the dust, there's a good chance that a help defender is going to come in between you and the basket. And it's probably going to be a big man. And that's when you shoot a floater up over the top of him. So again, good. Then Jeremy answered a question in Mandarin and Chinese language. I don't know what he said, so I can't respond to that. Although I do know he said he has been working hard on his Chinese ability to speak it, and he clearly has. I don't speak Mandarin, but I know just from watching Jeremy, he's much more comfortable speaking Mandarin than he used to be. And he's been working hard at it. He's talked about this. He's been studying, and it's paying off. And I'm thrilled for him because this will allow him to better connect with his millions of fans around the world. Also, it's better for marketing, to be quite honest with you. If you can speak the language, people can embrace you and whatever you're pitching better. I'll give you a perfect example. The boxer, the half Korean boxer, Gennady Golovkin, who just fought this past weekend against Daniel Geale from Australia, he's trying to become a star in the United States. And he's originally from Kazakhstan and now lives in Germany. His English is good, but it's not great. And so there's a little bit of a language barrier for him. And this kind of hurts him in connecting with the American audience. Well, this is the same thing for Jeremy. And so my advice to Gennady Golovkin is keep working on your English. And my advice to Jeremy Lin is keep working on your Mandarin. That will help you to become a bigger figure wherever you want to do well in. For Jeremy, that's Asia. For Gennady Golovkin, that's the USA. Okay, then Jeremy said, I am grateful for the support of the Asian community. They stand by me through ups and downs. Oh, this is great. Look, you know that doubters often say, oh, you only like Jeremy because he's Asian, which of course doesn't apply to me, as I have 0% Asian as far as I know. But let's be honest here. There's not very many Asians in the NBA. But you have a huge number of people. You probably have the largest number of people around the world, in my opinion, that are basketball fans are probably of Asian heritage. Well, of course, they want to root for somebody that looks like them, that they can relate to. That doesn't mean that's the only reason they like them and they don't root for anybody else, but it's like you want to feel like you could actually play too. Well, you don't see anybody playing. It looks like you. Maybe you don't think you could play. So, of course, there's an attachment to Jeremy by many fans of Asian heritage, the same way that there's an attachment to Tiger Woods for people who are of Asian heritage or people of African American heritage. That's normal. That's not a bad thing. It's a natural thing. And it's nice that Jeremy respects that. He knows that. He understands that. And it's good that he gets to kind of, give a shout out to his fans of Asian heritage because it is important. And they are supporting him. When you watch a sport or you root for a hero, you identify with the person. It's a vicarious experience. That could be me. That's me playing. So if Jeremy can succeed, I can succeed. And so it is important. So, good. I'm glad that he mentioned that. Okay. He said, I am trying to be a player in the future, not trying to recreate the Linsanity past. Again, what I said earlier, live in the now. Whatever happened, doesn't matter. Not trying to relive the glory days. Let's live now and make a new Linsanity. So I think that's good. That's not a bad thing. He's not saying he can't do Linsanity again. He's saying he's not trying to go back and hold on to it for dear life. Why not? Just play now. And let's do it again. Okay. And to further that point, he then said, I want to be a bigger, much better player than before. Right. So he's not saying he can't do Linsanity. He's saying, I want super Linsanity. I want Linsanity 5.0. Best Linsanity ever. That's what he's saying here. One of the things that Gary Payton said about Jeremy Lin, and I remember this from watching an old interview with Gary Payton, said Jeremy Lin is cocky. Yes, he is. Jeremy is cocky. Not that I'm Jeremy Lin and you're not, but he's cocky about his basketball ability, and that's good. You can't be the best unless you think you're the best. You have to have that. It's like an athletic arrogance. You must think you are good. If you don't, you won't be good. And this is what Jeremy said about the mental aspect of the game. Well, believe me, Jeremy is very tough mentally. And he's particularly tough about believing in his own ability. Honestly, and I've said this before, there are times when Jeremy's too confident in his own ability, when he'll try to make a play when he shouldn't, or he got to work on a skill that he should get better at, but he probably thinks he's already good enough at it. So don't worry about him. He is confident, he is cocky, he knows what he can do, and he believes in what he can do. Good. Jeremy then said, I feel less pressure now than before. Also very good to hear. This goes along with the testimony and the anxiety, and it goes along with just his maturity as an individual, as a player, as a person. And remember, Jeremy was living on the couch, no money, no guaranteed contracts, no nothing. Well, now he's made some money. He's been through the hard times. He's been the star. He's been the scapegoat. He's been the nothing guy, etc. Once you go through tough times, then you become used to it. Then it doesn't scare you as much. You feel less pressure about it the next time you're in the same situation. Repetition. That's how you desensitize to a situation. If I'm afraid of spiders, if I go in a room 10 times with spiders and nothing happens, then I'm not as worried about the 11th time. So Jeremy's getting used to all of this, and that's good. Jeremy then mentioned that the first preseason game of the season is October 9th because somebody asked him, hey, are you going to be ready? Are you going to be ready at the beginning? He's like, well, yeah, the first preseason game's October 9th, and I intend to be ready. So, got 2-3 months away, which is good. He then also added that he did not try to emulate Kobe Bryant when he was growing up because his skill set is much different than mine. Right. Jeremy's a terrific athlete, but he doesn't have the explosion that Kobe Bryant does in terms of jumping. And one of the things that really separated Kobe from many, many players was how much height Kobe can get on his jump when he's shooting his jump shot. LeBron James probably a better jumper than Kobe Bryant is in terms of vertical height. But LeBron can't get anywhere near the height off the ground on his jump shot that Kobe can, or maybe Kobe could, at least before the Achilles injury. That is a real asset because it makes it much harder to block your shot. Jeremy doesn't have that, but he doesn't need to have it. But it's realistic for Jeremy to not try to be Kobe Bryant if you don't have his skill set. So I thought that was accurate. He then said, I do try to emulate Steve Nash when I'm playing, and I've known Steve Nash from earlier. We know each other. We're friends. Yeah, that's probably a more realistic example for Jeremy to try to follow the way that Steve plays, which obviously is pretty darn good since Steve Nash is clearly going to the Hall of Fame and he's got 2 MVPs, which is one more MVP than Kobe has. Not knocking Kobe, but in other words, the way Steve plays worked pretty well. Jeremy then said, I don't think people fully understand how much of a mental game professional sports is. That is what we've talked about earlier. Sports is heavily, heavily mental. And again, this is why I'm excited about Jeremy's prospects going forward, because I do believe he has held himself back. Again, the pure form of Jeremy Lin was Linsanity 1.0 in New York. But he's better than that now in terms of skills. But if he can get back to that place mentally, then you're going to see something special again. And I believe we will see that. I don't know how long it's going to take. I will say this. I could see this year being kind of a transition year for Jeremy, where he's just kind of got to get over all the stuff that he went through in Houston. So we might not see full-blown super insanity this year. I do think we will see it. And I do understand if this is a transition year for Jeremy. Not only does he have to get over the Houston trauma, he's got to adjust to a new team. He's got to learn his teammates. He's got to defer to Kobe. He's got to get used to Byron Scott as a coach, etc. So let's not put expectations through the ceiling here. Not in year one. And then we'll go from there. With Jeremy's mission this season, make an impression on the team so that they want to keep you on next year, the following year. Work with your teammates. Get to learn what Byron Scott expects of you. Get to just become used to the Laker way overall. And just fit in. Just work on your game. Learn from Steve Nash. Learn from Kobe. Maybe learn from Gary Payton if he's there. And then in the year 2 with the Lakers, then you can see the real blast off. I think if everything goes, I'm not saying Jeremy's not going to have good games this year, because he will, and he's capable of it. I'm just saying I think we'll see even better things from him in year 2 with the Lakers, as long as he's healthy and if everything goes properly. Because it is mental, and you need to get comfortable. You need to learn certain things, and you need to fit in with your new environment. It takes time for that to happen. And Jeremy said, anybody who wins as much as Kobe has done has a mental edge over everybody else. That's right. And what I said on Twitter, there's an expression in boxing which roughly goes, as soon as you become the champion, you get 30% better. And this goes to the mental thing. Once you are validated as a good player or as a champion, you get better because your confidence gets better. You know what it takes to be a champion, whereas your opponent might not know that. Well, Kobe's won 5 rings. He knows how to win. And that does give you a mental edge over the guy that doesn't know how to win. Or maybe he thinks he knows how to win, but he's never won. You've already won 5 times. It is a mental advantage, and I agree about that. Then Jeremy said, I think I have grown a lot in the mental aspect of the game, and I've become a stronger Christian. That's good that he said that, and I agree with him. He is clearly growing in the mental aspect of the game. And on a related and good note, I still think he's got a substantial way to go in the mental aspect of the game. Again, I don't mean that as a diss. I mean that as good, because that means he can improve even more. When that mental and confidence aspect kicks in for him, you're going to see an even better player. Because, look, with Carmelo in New York and with James Harden in Houston, Jeremy had to defer. He had to be worried about what those guys were thinking. Were they jealous? Were they getting enough touches? This, that. For anybody, that's going to stunt your game. But for somebody that's sensitive, like Jeremy is, or somebody that thinks a lot, it's going to stunt you even more. And Jeremy is somebody that came into the NBA not as a highly touted prospect. So he didn't come in with a number 1 draft pick mentality. So the more that he can relax and just be able to play his game, and he's not worried that McHale's going to yank him out of the game if he has 1 turnover, and when's McHale going to put him back in, the more he can just chill and get to that kind of that zone mentally and learn how to repeat that, he's going to be even better. He's going to be even better. Like I said, then you can see Linsanity 1.0, but with a lot more skills, with a better jump shot, and being able to play at different speeds, and with a floater. And so, and I said this about Houston, I welcome Jeremy playing in different offensive systems, because then he'll get good at everything. Now, during the time he's learning to get good, might not look as good. It might that's when all the doubters will come in and say, oh, he played 2 weeks of good basketball. He's overrated. He's not that good. He's average. No, it's like the caterpillar and the cocoon. Nobody knows what's happening in the cocoon, but then it comes out as a butterfly. That's what it is. Jeremy's learning to become a butterfly. So just work with it. I want him to try different things. Just like he's losing weight this year. He's going to see how that works, playing at a lighter weight. Young players must learn all of these different aspects of the game and aspects of their body and what works. So Jeremy's still very much a work in progress, including from the mental aspect. And that's good. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Jeremy then said that his trainer and my trainer and I have our own goals. We have set our goals. We have a set of goals we're trying to achieve this summer. That means that Jeremy and I think he's talking about Josh Fan, who is his personal trainer. They know what they want to get done over the summer, and what that says a couple things to me. One, he's got a purpose. He's approaching the summer with a purpose. These are the things I want to achieve this summer. That's very good. He's a highly motivated person. He's not just taking the summer off. He's working hard. Number two, he's already going to work. You've seen the picture. Somebody put out a picture from Jeremy at UCLA the last couple of days. He's going to work. Again, I was afraid that he was going to have to take time to move. And, there's going to be some lost time. Well, it doesn't look like it. I don't know what he did. Maybe he got his buddies to help him move or called a moving company. But Jeremy's in L.A. Seems like he's set and he's going to work. And again, Jeremy's not waiting on anybody. He's not waiting for the team or for somebody else to tell him what he needs to work on. He's working on it right now. That's very good. Look, if you watched Jeremy Lin last year, which a number of you have, he came in shooting the lights out from three-point range, which meant he clearly put in a tremendous amount of work on his three-point shot over last summer. Well, expect to see something like that again this upcoming season. That's what I think when I hear what he said. Like I said, Jeremy's a serious guy. If he says he's working on it, he's putting in work. And at some point, it will click. The three-point shot didn't stay with Jeremy last year because he's not used to it all the way now. So you need more work, more repetition. Get your body in a little bit better shape so that doesn't wear down during the season. Maybe that was affecting it. Maybe your legs are heavy and you're not getting the shot like you used to earlier in the season. At some point, that's going to become his consistent shot. And his three-point percentage can go up. So this is what's happening now. And he and Josh and his team, they're going to work. They're on it right now. He then said, in time, I will learn what the coach wants, what the team wants from me. Yeah, in other words, I'm working on what I need to work on for myself as an individual player right now. I don't know what Byron Scott wants. I don't know what the Lakers want yet because I haven't really spent any time with them yet. But again, I'm not waiting. I'm just going to work on my individual skills. And when the time comes, then I will find out what the team wants from me and what they expect from me. Jeremy then said that he grew up playing with his dad, Papa Lin, but I would not call Papa Lin fundamentally sound, which is funny. So, in other words, Papa Lin liked hoops, liked to play, liked to do hook shot like Kareem. He said that Papa Lin's favorite player was Kareem. But, he knows Papa Lin isn't Kobe. He might not be able to get all the fundamental instructions from Papa Lin that he might be able to get from Kobe or from serious coaches. But he was just having fun. Somebody, one of the reporters asked him about, I don't know, who he emulated or who he learned from growing up or whatever. So, and that was it. That was the end of the Jeremy Lin introductory news conference for the Lakers, which if you haven't seen, believe me, it's all over YouTube and other places or Lakers.com. You can also find Jeremy Lin's testimony in Taiwan on YouTube, I believe, and it's English. At least the copy that I saw of it was, and it's about 40 minutes long. So that's it. I wanted to get this stuff done. There's plenty of it more to talk about, including coach, roster, team outlook. How's the team going to, what are they going to play? What's the offense going to look like? All that. We'll save that for some other videos. I still need to do some homework on that, to be honest with you. Just going over Byron Scott's track record and the Princeton offense a bit more. I also want to see if who else the Lakers add. They have 2 roster spots open. There's been some talk about maybe they add Michael Beasley. There's been some talk about maybe they add Sean Marion. Both of those players are small forwards, although Michael Beasley, they both can play power forward too. The openings on the roster in terms of position are small forward and point guard. They thought they were going to be able to get Kendall Marshall back, but they didn't because the Milwaukee Bucks claimed him off of waivers. I want to see if those pieces are added. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you those guys are going to make all the difference in the world, the third point guard and a third small forward, but Sean Marion and Michael Beasley could make a difference. Definitely, those 2 players are capable of making a difference on a team. So we'll see. We'll see if they add something. I'm not going to wait forever to make a video. If they don't add somebody relatively soon, then we'll do a video. Look, overall, I love where Jeremy's head's at. He's matured. He's happy that he's with the Lakers now. He's feeling good. He knows what he has to work on. He's just getting better and better. And he's at a place where he's wanted now. They've wanted him for a long time. He's excited to who he's going to be able to play with Kobe and Nash. He's in a city that's going to embrace him and that he wants to be in. Everything's looking great. If you would have told me this was going to happen a month ago, I wouldn't have believed you at all. And Jeremy wouldn't have believed you either. So I'm very excited. I'm excited for the team. I think this team is going to be better than people think it's going to be. Now, that's dependent on health, and it's dependent on Kobe coming back from his injuries at a good level. But I have a good feeling about this team. The West is difficult. They are going to have a challenging time making the playoffs. But I think if things come together, this is a team that could win mid-40s, maybe even high 40s in games. And if they do that, they're going to have a great chance to make the playoffs. So I'm excited. I can't wait. It's going to be a fun season. Again, we just hope everybody stays healthy. And look, the Lakers are finalizing negotiations, I believe, with Byron Scott right now. He's clearly going to be the next coach, even though it's not all official yet or whatever. And look, Byron Scott likes Jeremy. He's spoken highly of Jeremy. We'll see if Jeremy starts. I don't care if he starts. Unlike Houston, I'm not worried about it because Steve Nash is Steve Nash, and Steve Nash isn't going to be around forever. So it's all good. That's it. Thumbs up, thumbs down, your comments below. We encourage you to come and join the Conservative Media Facebook group, which has over 3,500 members and growing. We also encourage you to come and follow us on Twitter at CNM JLin Vids. You will find information for both of those things in the video description below the video player. Again, I am PFE Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert. Thanks a lot for watching Conservative New Media. It is currently 3:21 p.m. here on Monday, July 28th, 2014, which means it is 3:21 a.m. on Tuesday, July 29th, 2014 in Taipei, Taiwan. And it means it's 12:21 p.m. on the west coast of the United States, where Jeremy is. And it's, about 8:21 or 9:21 in Central Europe, which I'm sorry, I can't remember. FM Paul, I think it is, that asked me to do the Central European time. So hitting all bases here, and I hope everybody's having a good night or good day wherever you are around the world. It is the middle of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, and which means it is the middle of winter in the Southern Hemisphere, where Melody Ting and other our viewers are in Australia and in South America and Africa. So we hope you're having a great day or great night, wherever you are when you watch this video. Take care. We will talk to you again soon. And many of you, I will see you on Twitter soon.